If you're my notes,
Just around
2.5.
Sorry.
Anyway, okay, so sorry I'm late. So today we have Mark is going to be talking about APT. It's a way of controlling your camera. It's right there in front of the AstroPhotoTool. So after that, I guess we'll talk about astronomy days because there's a lot of volunteering and a lot of help that went into the astrophotography exhibits. So I'm going to let Steve Christensen take the lead on that. Tell us what's going on and everything. So also, thank you everybody for coming out for the Photoshop workshop by Michael Fulbright. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you.
And went really well, according to, or I shouldn't really put this on your shoulders. My main team, we could probably do these kinds of things in the future.
I'm going to hope. Yeah, if there's an interest, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I already talked to someone. They said that I got to write a note to the department head, so he should be okay with it. So you guys have to let me know.
All right, very good. Take it away, Mark.
All right. Okay, well, a few months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, the committee here asked me if I would do a talk on APT, and I said, okay. And then we had to delay it once, and so here I am. So I'm going to say right off the bat, I'm not an APT expert. I've been using it for about 6 to 8 months, and so I probably know a little bit more than...
You're the APT expert in this room. That's
right. So anyway, if you have questions, be sure to ask them. I won't guarantee an answer, but I'll do my best. So anyway, I own 3 different cameras. I own a Canon DSLR. I own I own 2 ZWO ASI cameras, and I own a 10-year-old SBIG camera. This program will run all 3 of them, which I find is amazing. So up until now, I've been using backyard EOS for my camera, for my Canon, and I've been using Maxim DL, an old version, to run my CCD camera. The ZWOs kind of threw a little bit of a wrench because Maxim DL wouldn't do everything that was needed to cool the ZWO cameras. So I was on the lookout for a new option. So this presented itself, and I've come to really like it. So it's not your fancy bells and whistles type program. It's pretty much a basic program. Its author his name is Ivo Stoyanov. He's from Bulgaria. So when you buy this program, you pay for it in euros. It's cheap too. But that's the real point, Andy, is that this program, the last time I looked at the conversion, it cost a little under $21 for a full license. And even more important, he gives you an unrestricted demo. So you could run his demo version pretty much forever. If you didn't mind seeing across your screen at the top, wouldn't you consider paying for this?
Cheapskate.
Yeah. In this case, you really are a cheapskate if you don't pay this guy the money. So anyway, this thing is for Windows only. So it's going to jump around on me. So it works on XP Vista 7910. So yeah, for all you Vista users.
Anything but 10 at this point.
Well, I run it on 8 because I don't want to go to 10 on capture. So anyway, it's pretty versatile, but unfortunately for the Mac and Linux users, it doesn't do that. But one of its real virtues, I think, is the devices that it supports. So at the top, it natively supports the Canon models, the Nikon models, I'm talking about DSLRs, and then it does the ASCOM of pretty much anything that's got an ASCOM driver. So in this case, we got QHY, ZWO, Starlight, Express, ATIC, Orion. I don't know what Bravia camera is in Celestron, but it supports a lot. And then the thing that impressed me is these. I can't get my mouse. It has native support for QSI, SBIG, Altair, and ZWO. So the ZWO native support has just come in the last 3 or 4 months, so it's new. It supports the little temperature sensors that you can plug up to your laptop. It also supports this ASCOM filter wheels, filter drawers, focusers, rotators, camera rotators, and your mount. So I don't have a lot of experience on using a mount, but it controls my Celestron AVX, and that's what I've been using this for. I was even using it on my old Los Mandy before I sold it. And if you can live without, telescope control, it works fine with that too. It also has support for sky quality meters. Right in there.
Have you tried that? Well, because I have a unit here.
I haven't tried the sky quality.
I know Phyllis has one.
Yeah, we have one, but I haven't
tried it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much for me now, I'm using the ZWO cameras, and they're temperature controlled. So other than sticking the outside temperature in your FITS header or something like that, I didn't see the real importance of it.
Okay.
I'm going to skip over the user interface right now because that's what I'm going to show you live here in a minute. But I am going to show you a couple things on camera operation. And this is the one I find pretty interesting. I haven't tried this, but you can run more than one camera at a time.
On the same mount, also, right?
Well, no.
Synchronization and dithering.
Yeah, so no. You put it on 2 different mounts.
So that's it.
Yeah. So it does, as it says, it does dithering, synchronization. So I'm going to skip over most of this because this is mostly about how it works with DSLR type cameras. But by the way, this is APT's web page. I just captured it and I'm displaying it here, so you can, if you're interested in looking at more details and all this. I mean, the amount of information he puts out here about what he supports is pretty impressive. On integration, he does plate solving. So I use plate solve too, but if you're doing Astro Tortilla or All Sky Plate Solver, it works with that. And everybody wants to know, it works with PhD too. PhD. And if you're into connecting a sky chart and interfacing with the sky chart, it supports Stellarium, Halos, SkyTech, Computer-Aided Astronomy, and CART-2CL. And the one that's popular in my house is this one. Since Phyllis is the author of Deep Sky Planner, you can import objects from a plan file into this program, and it'll help you find things with it. I'm going to show that feature a little later on. Yeah, it'll be rudimentary, but
and that's automatic EOS lens focusing.
yeah, I haven't tried.
That's it.
I haven't tried the automatic EOS lens focusing, but he says he does it. So, and I guess I should run this qualifier out that I'm going to mainly talk about the stuff that I do, which is, since I'm still a newbie with this program, it's not a great deal, but I've been pretty impressed with what it will do. He's got a really nice forum, a users forum out there. with a lot of users. So, you know, if you want to throw a question out, it gets answered pretty quickly. And, you know, the author is out there doing a lot of the legwork on answering questions. So,
Like a lot of Europeans I've dealt with in software, this guy's actually quite helpful and useful.
he is. And, you know, he is a photographer too. He's apparently got 4 or 5 APODs to his credit. So, you know, he knows what's going on.
No, I asked him about esoteric API questions, and he got back to me and added some stuff. He was really helpful. So he's all about it. Yeah, so he's all about it. He's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
When I first got the program, after I paid for it, I had several questions for him, and I corresponded with him directly, and he answered me right back. So I didn't really know about the forum much at that time. Let's see, and also, if you're into these kinds of things, there's a lot of help out there on YouTube on this program. So I watched this guy's channel. This is Trevor Jones on Astro Backyard. He kind of does stuff that really interests me, and he was talking about APT, you know, a year or so back, and so I watched some of his videos, and this is a nice video where he talks about, you know, how he uses APT and how he uses it with PhD and so forth. So there's a lot of research, a lot of resources out there. And then
Somebody's got a like a 12-part tutorial on astrophotography tool, and the guy's pretty decent.
yeah, this guy right here is called, his username is handles AstroQuest.
Oh, okay.
And he's got 26 videos out there on how he does things with APT. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, you know, to kind of get you going if you're kind of stumbling and don't know how to do things. And for somebody that's pretty much a newbie, you know, this is helpful stuff. So the other thing it's got, I'm going to start it up to show it, but it's got a really good help system. This is an old computer running Windows 8.1 that I retired as my main computer years ago, and it runs it pretty well. It doesn't drag on this system. So you click on this, and it gives you the help system. And there are a lot of pages. I printed out the PDF version of this. It's over 100 pages. It's pretty extensive. So, you can come in and look at the features. For instance, the plan editor and how it brings things up. So there's a lot of stuff in his help system, and you can click on things and it'll take you to the details on the bottom. So anyway, just if you need help with it, he's got a lot of stuff there. It's well documented.
What is extreme EOS shutter mode? Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I don't use it, so I don't know. So I'm gonna hook up my DSLR camera here just to help show some things. There's not a lot I can do on an enemy's capture program indoors without a telescope or a mount. So I'm going to show you some rudimentary things.
Do you need a special cable or anything to hook to your camera?
Just the camera, the cable that you would have gone from your computer to your camera in the first place. In this case, it's just the little Canon small USB connector to a regular USB connector.
I think how well it communicates depends on the what do they call it, DigiLogic or whatever the version is running on the camera. I think they're up to 5 now or 6. I don't know.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just connect to the camera, and then I'm going to show you a little bit around the user interface, what it looks like. So I got to connect up and do it. So this is what Mike was just talking about, the DigiLogic stuff.
Have you captured any data with this camera?
I've not used it outdoors.
Okay.
My DSLR is not getting a lot of love since I got my ZWO cameras.
So you took it out for a drink. Is that what it is?
Yeah. And then said bye. Okay, you can't hear it, but it's talking to me and saying the camera's connected. So down in the bottom, it's showing you some things about what it's done. So it says it's talking to a Rebel T3i. And what my shutter count is too. I never knew what that was until I connected up to this. Over here on this side is the status panel. This area will show you, how things are going with the images you're capturing. This is showing me the battery condition of my computer. This is showing the battery condition of the camera. And this is how much space is free on my, the card in my camera. No filter at the moment. And it's not connected to PhD2 right now. So it will dither with PhD2 and it'll talk to the PhD2 server. So you can control PhD2 here. It's showing me the moon phase is pretty much close to last quarter. Then if you click on this, it kind of gives you some things about what's going on tonight. And I don't know, I kind of like, tells me when moonrise and sunrise and sunset and all that is. But it says we got 4 hours and 48 minutes of darkness tonight.
Do you have to maintain a Wi-Fi connection for all this?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
Everything's self-contained inside your computer.
Okay.
And then for all you narrowband guys, you can use all night.
That's neat.
Yeah, that pretty much tells you when darkness is. And then this thing right here, I can't use it and I can't show it, but it tells you when you're going to have a meridian flip. So, kind of nice thing to know. But I'm not connected to a mount, so I can't show that.
It handles flips automatically, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I haven't done one, so I can't speak to it authoritatively.
You even have the plate solving thing.
Okay, over on this side is the main tab that controls most of the features of the program. I've already showed you a little bit of the camera tab. In the camera tab, you have the plans that you want to run. You have light plans, dark plans, flat plans, etc. Down here at the bottom, you have the exposure values that pertain to your camera. So this panel on the camera tab changes. So if you're using a DSLR, it'll look different than if you're using a CCD camera. So you'll notice that some of these things will change. So you see how we have ISO and quality RAW plus large JPEG and aperture. It shows you that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
And then the imaging plans, I didn't really get into it a lot, but the imaging plans also, have ISO in them, exposure time and quality and that sort of thing. Okay, so before I get too much deeper into this, I'll show the live view panel at least here. So the shutter just tripped up, and so that was Chris with his. So pretty much you use the live view to focus with, and so when you're focusing in on your star, you can use the live view and framing what you're trying to get.
Now I saw something about autofocus.
I've seen that too, and I don't know what that is, Mike.
Okay. All right.
And these two features right here are only enabled when you're using DSLR, but you can tell it to zoom in, and it'll zoom in and zoom out. And then this is the snapshot, essentially. So when you hit the shoot button, it takes what you have down here. In this case, this is live view. I don't want to do 30 seconds, but if you want to do like 1 second, it'll change over, I think. Let me hit shoot and you'll see.
If you're about my notes,
I want to get started.
Just around.
And it didn't. I thought it would change. So it's going to be blown out. So that needed to be ISO 200. And so to shoot again, this probably won't be quite as blown out this time. So that's the live shot. Now you need to do the shots later on when you want to do plate solving, and I'll show that when I connect up the other camera. So a quick walkthrough on the gear tab now. Here's where you connect up your mount, and as long as you got an ASCOM mount, it should connect up. I'm using it on my AVX. It works fine as long as you have a little cable that allows you to serially talk from your computer to your mount. Important thing here is guide. This is how you set up your dithering. In this case, it's set up with PhD. You can tell some parameters about how you dither. I'm not good enough with my polar line and my mount yet to do any real dithering, so I kind of have not played with this. Yeah, I use the drift method of dithering. It's not in the same thing in the next place as it was the time before. I'll show point craft and objects later, but this is where you connect your focuser and your filter wheel and your camera rotator. Tools, I'll demonstrate these things in a few minutes, but this is just to show you that there's a lot of things here under the tools. And Mike, the lens control thing is enabled right now, so I think you could tell this thing to focus the lens and it will do it. And down here, the object calculator is an important thing. Right now it's preset because I connected to a Canon camera. It knows that there's a Rebel connected here, and it knows that I'm on 21 millimeters focal length on the lens right now. And then the IMG tab, come down here and go to last taken. This is a quick way to get to the last picture that I took, which I like. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it looks like for DSLR in a main overview. So I'm going to disconnect this camera.
Mark, do you know, can you, when you're outside Pixstar, you know how Backyard EOS, you do the full width half max?
Yep.
I wonder if it's capable of adjusting based on that.
Yes.
No, okay.
Okay.
The Map A focus on this is really, really, really good.
So I'm going to bring out my ZWO, and I'm going to connect it up just to facilitate demonstrating some other things with this program. Now I have no lens on it, so I can't show you much. I can show you how to do a dark frame.
Is this USB 3.0?
Yeah. On some of the ports are USB 3.
Right.
But this will run my ASI 1600 fine on USB 2. Mm-hmm. So we're going to switch over now. We're going to connect. You hit the shift button and hit connect. It brings up that menu, and then you can connect. So in this case, I'm going to connect to CCD ASCOM. But if you had a different choice, if you wanted to go with the ZWO native drivers or the SBIG native drivers, you could choose that here. But I'm going to just choose the ASCOM driver. So it's going to pop up and ask me what camera are we talking to, and connect to ASI camera 1. Yeah, 1600. And then I'm going to accept the defaults here, which is unity gain. and then hit OK. It just told me camera connected, so if you look down here in the status tab, you'll see that it knows we're talking to the 1600. It knows what the pixel size is on the matrix on the sensor, and it's talking about using cooling. So that's one of the first things that I wanted to show you. It automatically turns the cooling on, but it's got this thing called cooling aid. Bring it over here. So you set your target CCD temperature, and then you set the interval. So the idea of this cooling aid is cool it down, for, in this case, 5 degrees, and pause for 5 seconds. I got it set at 0 right now, but it doesn't, try to do the cooling in one big chunk at one time. It kind of takes it down gradually. That kind of annoys me because I'm always in a hurry to have it done quickly. But I can't really show you the cooling aid on the camera because I'm not hooked up to the 12 volt.
You could change the step.
So where is that target in the sky? Do you have a picture there?
That's the Waitress Nebula. She's here.
There we are.
Not very flattering picture.
Okay, so like in the EOS example, you set your exposure time here for snapshots, the binning, and if you want to set a gain, you set it here. And then if you want to use a region of interest, you can do that. And then this is the warming aid right here. It's just the opposite of the cooling aid. When you're done, you can warm the camera up gradually instead of just doing it all in one fell swoop.
Do you guys believe in using the warming aid?
I don't.
How do you just go power?
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if, unless you're in the summer and you've got it really down. Right.
I've read that the thermal shock can damage some ships, but I don't have any experience with that.
I've read that. I think I've read somewhere on ZWO forum somebody asked that exact question, and they said
Don't worry about
they didn't think so. They didn't think it was necessary. So I'm going to come over here to the Tools tab for just a second and show you the overall settings for the program. So you can change the skin color. I got light gray selected right now, but you saw on the opening screen when I first started showing the web page, he had the red color set there. You can choose which one you like. You can set some things about if you've got a color, color camera. You can set what the Bayer pattern is. Temperature in the sky. This is where if you have a temperature sensor, that you can set that here. Also the sky quality meter, I think. Here you have to set your location. If you want any of this stuff over here to be correct. So latitude and longitude.
So if you set the Bayer matrix, does he de-Bayer images on the fly, or?
What it does is it just debayers the preview area. When you're going to get a fixed image from a CCD camera, and it will not be debayered until you do it in post-processing. You set up your filter wheel here. I haven't set up mine. I don't really use it hardly at all. But you can call the first one red, the second one green, the third one blue, and so forth. Sound options, I don't think anybody really cares about that. This is where you set up to interface with the planetarium programs. I don't really use that, and I don't really use any of that stuff. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the imaging tab. Over here. Oh, by the way, I meant to say earlier that You get a separate directory. If you use DSLR and you use a CCD camera, your DSLR images will go by default into a different directory than your CCD CMOS pictures, which is kind of handy. So I had some pictures that I had taken previously. I'm going to click on this directory right here. And these are just some pictures I had. I'm going to take this one first. So I took this with my old S-Big camera a long time ago, as we were talking about batting off mask back then. I'm going to hold down Alt and H to change the histogram. So what we have here is a picture of a star out of focus. Not out of focus, but roughly in focus. I'm going to do one thing here that I should have done is back over here in the object calculator. I came over to the tools menu. It's now set at CCD CMOS, but now I need to set the focal length. So it's got a little menu set up there, and I've set up like 3 profiles. So this one is the focal length of my Genesis refractor. I set that up. That'll become important later when we show plate solving. So anyway, in the tools I got this thing called Batten-Off Aid. Put a cross on it. And then what you do on these tools, you just drag it over. You put the crosshairs over the picture. Hit recalc. And it figures out the pattern in the batten-off mask.
That's cool.
And it tells you how close you are to focus. Now, I'm not really exactly right on it here, but it changed a little bit. So it shows distances far, so the focus wasn't super close. It's not real bad, but it's not real close either. And then at the bottom down here, there's a graph. So if you're changing it, you can see how you've been doing, better, worse, whatever. I find the batten-off aid just is pretty much self-explanatory. But you kind of get these 2 circles over top of each other, and that gets you a good close focus. The folks with filter wheels, the folks with electric focusers can take advantage of this nicely.
So as it becomes more in focus, the circles start to
the red one and the green one are right on top of each other.
As you get focused.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's neat.
You know the unit of measure is there?
I do not. Sorry.
Is that a live window when you're focusing?
It does.
It is a lot. Normally it would be a live normally it would be a live window, but I can't do that here.
Mark?
Yeah.
It'll give you an average because in reality it's moving all over.
Yeah.
I would assume.
It's gonna. You can just watch the graph at the bottom and decide, what it's doing. But you're right. Seeing is bad around here all the time. It jumps all over everywhere.
Like tonight.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pull up this. All right. So you say, wow, what happened there? Well, that's just the histogram needs to be set properly. And if you're not happy with the way the histogram looks, you can adjust it. You can move the white point some or the black point if you want. You can see that's the bright part of the image, and there's the dark part. And then you got some stars, I think, down here. But anyway, most of the time I'll do auto stretch left, and it allows you to see what you need to see to get focused and framed. One thing I don't like with this on the histogram, I use Alt-H for the histogram. There's no close box, so you have to hit Alt-H, Alt-H. I didn't show it yet, but it has a set of crosshairs. So if you need to get centered up properly. And then up here, we're looking at the entire image made to fit inside the box in the center. And if you want to get a little more drilled in, you can go to this auto mode. Now these little tools right here on the periphery and in the center are quick things. So this button right here will get me quickly right to the middle of the frame. Since I'm using a mouse, I can hit the right click and I can drag it pretty easily. But if you're out and you've got a touchpad, it's a real pain.
So, I'm sorry, you just clicked that center button and it took it right as part of the...
No, it took it to the direct center of the image.
It took whatever your...
Sensor size is.
Right, and put it right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Then if you want to just move around, mostly with your touchpad, you can hit these buttons right here. This moves it up. And this moves it down, so forth. But if you got a mouse, it's easier to do the right mouse click.
Since it has plate solving, can you click on the place on your image and say center on that with your mouse?
I'm coming to that.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Couple other things on the tools menu. It's got a magnifier so that you just drag this thing over a spot and it gives you a magnified view if you want to see what it looks like. When default's 3, you can bring it up to 5. If you're really crazy, you can do that. Similar to that, it's got a focus aid where you can see the full width half max.
Oh, that's what I like. So you just center the star in the box where the crosshairs are.
Can you see the little tick marks there?
Yeah. So just make sure it's...
Yeah. And it gives you a graph at the bottom. It tells you how you're doing. If you got an electric focuser, it's,
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. What else we got here? I haven't used graphs much, but if you want to see how your cooling is doing or your guiding is doing, you can click on some things in the graphs menu. And then what else do I? Pixel Aid's the other one that I use sometimes. You can drag it if you want to see how you're doing with how much your background is. You can see that the background here is 2912 in that box. And the highest value is 4556. But if you drag it over a star, you'll see that the maximum value is 31966. So that's helpful if you're got a bright star or you expose long enough that you're maxing out that range of pixels in that area. It's good to know that you might want to consider backing off your exposure maybe. Let me bring up another image. I was playing around with this the other day. Oh, by the way, these tooltips get in the way, but you can see that over here on the right side, it names the frames for you. I use pretty much the defaults, but this says it's a light frame, the date, the time, the object, in this case Comet Pan Stars, the length of time, 45 seconds, the camera temperature, and it's a FITS image. So if you want to see the FITS header, you're going to get Alt-I, and it shows you the values in the FITS header. So I'm going to bring up this image right here. And again, it looks gross, right? So we'll hit Alt-H and let the histogram get stretched properly for us. And this was my target right here.
Comet?
Yeah, a little comet. Comet Pan Stars. So I want to show what he calls point craft. And what he calls point craft is really plate solving. So you bring this up, and again, I have Plate Solve 2 installed on this computer. And so you need to, again, you need to make sure that you have the parameters set right in this area. So in my case, the focal length was 500, and I got the ASI 1600 camera selected. So you come here. I'm going to show the object database now, so I'm going to get a little bit of detour from the plate solving. So when I get off track here, I haven't forgot yet. So in the program itself, he's got a database of a bunch of objects. In this case, we're looking at the deep sky section. He's got 585 objects here. He's got all the Messier, all the Herschel 400s, some of the Caldwells, and some of the Hidden Treasures catalog. If you want, you can click on this thing down here at the bottom, and you can get 19,000 more. I don't personally see a lot of use in that, because I don't want to be searching through a database when I'm out at night. I want to prep all that kind of stuff up ahead of time. He's got a list of, I think it's 82 stars. These are mostly guide stars, focus and alignment stars, so you can align your telescope mount. Maps, this is not, I don't know why he has that there. Custom, this is where you can put custom objects in. And then the one I use the most is the to-do. So, back on the plate solving again, I put Comet Pan stars in here for the date that I was taking the photograph. And so if you want to edit, you can just say add new, and it gives you a place to fill in the name, the object, and what it kind of thing it is, and most importantly, the right ascension and declination. Unsaved change. Do you want to continue? Yes. So, go back here again.
Mark, since a comet moves, did you just pick something in the range that was going to be in that night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the plate solving is going to help you anyway with that. You just need to get in the ballpark so that your plate solve doesn't take forever. So I'm going to select Comet Pan stars. It's highlighted, so I'm going to select it. And it filled it in the coordinates, the approximate coordinates of the comet. And then you just hit solve. And it's really doing the solve now.
Now it knew those coordinates, Mark? Did you have that?
I added those in.
And where did you pull them from?
I got those from the Minor Planet Center.
Okay.
Okay, so it solved it. You can see here what the center, right here is the center of the plate. It must be a glass plate. And it tells you arc seconds per pixel and the angle, so you can tell that thing shows you where north is on this picture. If I was connected to a telescope, I'd hit solve. I hit the wrong button, sorry. I meant to hit sync. Wait for it to solve again. Okay. Sorry. You hit the sync button normally. It won't do anything here because I'm not connected to a telescope. But it would have synchronized the mount and the software here to the spot. So this goes back to your question a minute ago. So suppose that I had a really huge tail on this thing and it wasn't really framed up the way I wanted it. I can hit down here, I can hit the aim button, say click right there for example, and then it shows what the RA and dec of that spot is. And then you hit the go to plus button, which I can't do here, but it'll slew to the bullseye there, center it up, and then you've got the picture framed the way you want it. If you're doing something that you're going to maybe come back again the next night and you've got a custom position, you can click on this store button right here, and you can name this. You can say this is my object night 1 or something like that, and then you can come back the next night, bring up the the entry that you put in here and tell it to go to that spot, and you can have your object centered up the next night. So that's plate solving.
And you always connect to ASCOM's scope simulator. I use that in debugging my software all the time. And it'll act just like the telescope is connected to it.
Oh, okay, so you're using this?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
well,
okay.
not this, but my own programs. I'm using ASCOM's scope drivers. And
Okay.
they have a scope simulator that can pretend it's a scope.
Yeah, I suppose that depends on the driver and whatever it is you're doing. So I guess as long as there's a scope simulator, there
Yeah,
it would do it.
that's part of the ASCOM package.
Yeah, okay. I've never tried that, so. I've learned
So
something.
Mark, you can run the simulators in here, all the ASCOM simulators.
Okay.
I can play with APT. I can put this on the scope simulator, and you can make it so it takes the deep sky survey images if you're on a camera simulator.
Okay.
So you can exercise this at home and play and get used to it without having to spend precious time outside.
Cool.
So Mark, can once you do a polar alignment, or can you use this to do an auto alignment using plate saw?
You're talking about like SharpCap might be doing?
Well, like we do. I'm not done it with SharpCut, but I mean, I've heard that, and I may be getting it confused with something else, where you do the polar alignment, it knows the deck and right ascension where you're at because you just did your polar alignment. Now it'll do a star alignment, and based on
you could, after you did your polar alignment, you could command your telescope to some spot,
right,
and then you could, using the GoTo ++, you could go to that spot, plate solve it, and synchronize there. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess, and then say yes, that is the first first point. If you're
so you're talking about like you're in a routine with your control software, and it's going to get you a refined position of your.
Right. I can do a 1, 2, 3 star alignment, and I usually do like a 2-star.
I haven't read anything about that. I don't know that it doesn't do it. But
I've heard that if you do a plate solve, a couple of plate solves, you're aligned.
Unless your orthogonality error is horrible or you're off by more like 10 arc minutes, no one bothers to build, well, except Paramounts, but no one bothers to build models because plates all, this will iterate. If you go to and it's off, it'll do another move go to and keep until it gets it on the target.
Yeah, I didn't say it, but when you do GoTo ++, it goes to that spot, does another plate solve, and allows you to sync up the mount again.
So Mark, you have crosshairs on the live view. What you could do is you could do a rough polar alignment best guess. You could do a go-to to an object, and then instead of syncing or plate solving, as long as the object's in the window, you can manipulate your mount to center that object manually and then sync.
That's how I do it.
And that's basically what an all-star polar alignment does. You do it in 3 different areas of the sky.
Okay. And then like the Celestron mounts have an actual polar alignment. After you do the star alignment, you physically move the mount to get it actually polar alignment.
Yeah.
And that is still some advantage if you're shooting like videos of the moon over an eclipse or the sun over an eclipse. That way it doesn't drift out of your frame, and there isn't an easy way to guide on that.
Okay, so one quick thing here about the to-do list. So if you do planning software, which we do at our house, so this is a little plan I created from Deep Sky Planner the other day, and I just chose something that was 45 degrees up and within, not too far off the meridian or something like that. And I created a plan. I drug 3 objects into this plan file, and you can see that they're all fairly famous things in Orion. I told Deep Sky Planner to export this, and it knows what format APT wants. It does this with other programs too, but it does APT.
So you do that right in Deep Sky Planner, export to ATP?
Well, what you do is you export it to a plan file.
Oh, a plan file, and then use ATP to access it.
And so then you can use APT to bring the plan file back in. So here you can say import list. You can say bring it in an APT native format, hit OK, and then it brings you up a directory. This is the file that I created. It's an XML file. It imported 3 records, hit OK. So now you see those 3 things in the database. So if I want to photograph the Rosetta Nebula, it's now in there.
So I was asking where you get your RA and DEC from. Can you use Phyllis's program?
Absolutely.
Instead of the other database, pulling it from.
It just depends on what you're doing. He's got common stuff in this database.
Right.
But if you're doing something that's a little bit off the beaten path, you can certainly create a plan, export it, and bring it in.
Okay.
It just depends on how much. If you want to do one thing, I don't know if you want to do that for just one thing. But if you're gonna, if your plan for the night involves 3,
Like
4, 5
yeah,
things, you
objects.
might want to do something like that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's plate solving. That. I didn't go over it yet, but this is the plan area. Let me send this back to 1-to-1. I didn't mean to do that. Bring the image back, tell it to fit. So, again, I can't really show this very well, but these are the plans that you create. I'm trying to keep the tooltips out of the way. There we go. So I just created a bunch of common plans. I do most of my stuff at home, so everything's short. But you can see I created several 30-second light plans. Here's one for RGB. We can bring it up. So it shows step 1, take 30, 1 by 1. 30 seconds, 1 by 1, 15 of them, and this is on filter 1. You can fix that so it shows red, green, or blue. I just haven't done it. But that's the plan, so it'll execute. Yeah, I'm going to turn off these tooltips here in a minute.
And if you have a filter wheel, it'll rotate to position 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the
Yeah.
filter does. So it'll execute line 1, and then it'll execute line 2, and then it'll execute line 3. But, Chris, for you, I saw something interesting that I didn't really know about. If you shift-click on the start, you can tell it to loop through the plan in a vertical fashion. And so if you were photographing an eclipse or something like that, and you want to do say a 1/10 and a 2/10 and a 3/10 and a 4/10 of a second exposure, you can set up a plan with like one exposure, and then the next one you change the length, and then the next exposure. You can tell this thing to loop, and I think it could be useful for photographing eclipses.
Actually, there's another reason to do this. If you have a monochrome camera and you've gone somewhere dark, and you don't know how much time you've got, and you want to make sure you get enough to not have a focal picture, then you can set it up to take LRGB, 5 frames each,
Yep.
and then do it again. So yeah, you may want a noisy image, but at least it won't be focal.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Clouds come in early.
So even though these are short exposures, I know Michael talked about this because with filters not being parfocal, can you have an intermediate step where if you go from one filter to the next, you can just check the full width half max before you execute? Because maybe we could be doing 180-second exposures.
Well, it supports offsets for each filter, so I think we
Is that what you do to set the off?
Maybe. I always worry about backlash. That's why I never do this nonsense. But yeah, it's
So when you go in and edit the plan, you can go in here and highlight a line and change things. But down here, it's got a script or command. You click on that, and he's got all kinds of little things that he could do. So go to offset. That might be what you're talking about, Michael. I think.
No. When you set up your filter wheel, you set an offset for each filter.
Oh, okay.
But I usually would do something like shoot 30 minutes per filter and do the autofocus between them, and then that way you sort of get the benefit of having all the filters, presuming you have a few hours. You don't want to refocus every 40, 50 seconds. That'd be crazy.
I think he's accounted for that sort of thing. I just don't know how he does it.
Wow.
But those are his commands. He can also script it. I don't know anything about the scripting. He didn't say too much about it in his documentation. So you can create a new plan. You can clone a plan. It'll ask you if this is a light plan, a dark plan, or whatever. And
Mark, what's the tooltip for vertical plan?
vertical plan is what I was talking about before. It goes through it top down instead of over, and then complete the whole line and then do the next one.
Okay. It's group by filter or not. Okay.
Yeah. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bulgarian translation.
I know. He's doing better than I would do the Bulgarian.
So I don't know. I can just want to see it do something. I can bring up a dark plan, and I can actually start it and I said, don't forget to cover the telescope. So it's
Those are helpful.
yeah. So it's taken a dark frame and there it is.
Gorgeous.
It is black.
So is there a setting where you would set up autofocus and auto meridian flip? Because I know people can set this up and go to bed and just leave it running.
I think so. I haven't really researched it, but he's thought of just about everything, I think, in here.
Yeah, he added that about a year ago. That was a big step. Auto meridian flip. Yeah.
So it looks black, but it's really not that black. Oops, try that again.
Now yours is all script driven, right? Your stuff. Does it show what as the script executes? Does it show this? If you want to double check and see where you are in your script, is it?
Yeah.
I guess this would.
It shows you all that. But yeah, no, there's a lot of depth to this beyond. I mean, the thing that's nice is if you just when I go out to big ones, I like to sit there and drive it, pretty much. And so he has all these tools that let you really inspect what's going on. But you can set it up to just go away and come back in the morning and cover your scope up, and it'll do that.
Yeah, you can put, you can make one image plan, and it'll work on one object. And you can one of those commands that I showed you a minute ago. You can say go to, some other thing, and the image plan will, you can image that part. I just do it a lot. I don't do it that complicated, but it's got the potential to do all that kind of stuff. So this is not Voyager or SGP, but it's a lot better than Maxim DL, and I hope I don't make anybody mad.
awesome.
Backyard EOS,
Well, it's got a lot of stuff that SPP does, so it's a good compliment.
Well, the beauty of this, if you start off with a DSLR and you migrate up to a CMOS camera, you don't change the software.
yeah. Like I said, it runs all my cameras, so I'm happy with it.
The thing I like about this is I run the SkyX, which came with the mount, otherwise it's a $1,000 program, and it doesn't tell you when you're done with your imaging. For $21, this has a little voice that says your imaging run is complete.
Yeah.
That's worth its weight in gold.
I don't think any of you could hear it, but it was talking to me as I was doing that.
And it talks a lot. It's really nice.
Yeah.
That's why you bought it.
Yeah, I needed
Keep your
that person
company
to
out
talk
there
to.
in the driveway.
Yeah.
Phyllis talk to you?
She doesn't come out very much.
You push the wrong
So,
button.
a couple of technical questions. Will this use native ZWA drive?
Yes.
So it's native ZWA drive. Have you ever set this stuff and just let it go for hours?
No.
I'm just curious about how stable it is.
I've run it for about 4 hours a couple of times. It works. It's so simple. I mean, first of all, I was running it on an i3 Windows machine. I mean, it'll probably run on a stick. It doesn't take a lot of memory. It doesn't take a lot of graphics engine, obviously. And I started with this before I got into the other stuff. And I did Backyard EOS. That was great. I got the ZWO camera and used something else. Started playing with this. And it was so stable compared to Sequence Generator. Right? Had very bad
So I was
Sequence
asking,
Generator.
that's the typical complaint against Sequencer. I would say that I've actually got a stable version. It's 2.6.2, and it's bulletproof.
Don't update it.
Let it run forever, and it doesn't break. But I know that is not the experience that a lot of people that are running 3.8. They don't fix it pretty quick. They're going to go away.
This guy updates his program fairly regularly. He went through a lull, in the some part of the last quarter, but he was updating it pretty often before that. Yeah.
Does it let you know when there's an update available
I
when
got
you
an
launch?
email the other day that said, "Hey, here's an extra month of support" or something like that.
And the,
just for Christmas, you know?
and the cool thing is you need your license key to download the update, and he sends you an email saying new updates available, and by the way, your license
Here's
key
your
is this.
Yeah.
He makes it. It's not. There's no hassling in this thing. Do you have something else, David? You said you had a couple things.
When you hook this to a mount, you're using ASCOM. You know whether you need an ASCOM driver for the mount, or does he do native?
You have to have the ASCOM driver for the mount. But it pretty much when you come over here into gear and do connect scope, he's going to send you to the ASCOM setup, and then you pick.
Simulator.
Yeah, it is a simulator there. So that's. I had never tried it.
The guy deserves credit for not making it use AstroPhotoTool. At least the way he plays all two.
Yeah, I think that's an upgrade. I think originally, I don't think he supported PlateSolve 2. I mean, he used to use AstroTortilla and the other one.
All Sky, placeholder.
PlateSolve 2 is relatively recent.
Well, after messing with it quite a lot for the presentation I did, because I can mess with AstroTortilla and make it function, but it will not function correctly if you just do it out of the box and it defaults.
I use ASTAP before any of this stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I use with
All-Sky solver is pretty pain-free. And they define their interface. PlateSolve too. They don't tell you. They don't publish how to interface with it when you're programming your own.
Anybody else have any questions? Because I'm pretty much done.
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm ready to eat.
Steve, did you want to talk about astronomy days?
We have